Hello, and welcome to the Metaphysics of Manifestation call. My name is Issachar Bey, and I am the Senior Director of the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. Good morning, and welcome on this great Sunday morning. This is the first Sunday in the month of June, and we're excited about you being on this call. In my quiet time this week, in my meditation, I begin to meditate and really go within to really find out what direction did I feel the people needed to be directed into. What is a word that I can give, or what is something that we can put out into the atmosphere that will enlighten, that will illuminate, but at the same time will begin to expand our minds to the next level of consciousness. And so being in that quiet time, I begin to meditate, and one of the things that I meditate on is always this: when you sow a thought, you will reap an act. When you sow an act, you will reap a habit. When you sow a habit, you will reap character. When you sow character, you will reap destiny. And that's something that I've always been very connected to, because that's whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And so we are honored and we are excited about where we are going. Those of you, if this is your first time being connected to us, you can follow us on Instagram at TOESC Spiritual Center. We're on Facebook at Temple of Enlightenment. We're also on LinkedIn as Temple of Enlightenment. In Twitter, we're on Enlightenment LV. And we're on all social media platforms. You can find us. I want to just, once again, thank you for being a part of this call this morning. As we get ready to move into this week, this is a very, very important week coming up. As I said in the past call, June 10th will be the new moon, but it will also be a solar eclipse. And so it is a great time to begin to manifest and really put some things in position of the changes and the expansion that we want to see happen in our lives. And so I just want to remind you all that on that day, that is a day where you want to really get into really beginning to manifest and really beginning to put some things forward that you want to put out into the universe to see come into fruition. I think that it's going to be very important, and I think that it's going to be actually imperative that we take advantage of really utilizing the knowledge of operating under that new moon and also the solar eclipse. And so I think that it's going to be important. Also, if any of you have missed any other calls or wanted to go back, what I do is every call that we do, I put it on our YouTube page. It's just the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. And every call that we've done, I've actually put on there. The last thing I think that I just recently put on there was an interview that I did with Reverend Galen McDowell from Christ Universal Temple. That is the church that was founded by the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. And we began to discuss, we talked about Dr. Johnny Coleman, we talked about New Thought, we talked about her legacy. As a matter of fact, they're celebrating Founders Week this week. And so, it was definitely a pleasure and an honor to be able to talk about and really get some in-depth stories, to hear the accolades and the experiences of being under her tutelage and her legacy. And, you guys can go on YouTube and listen to that interview that we did. And just to see a woman of her stature, what she created, what she went through, and how she came against the odds. And that, as she always say, it works if you work it. And so, if you guys want to listen to that, it is available on our YouTube channel, as with all of our other calls. So I want to thank you. Also, I want to remind you guys that because of you, you make it possible in helping us to broaden our message to get this stuff out to people and also make it possible for us to expand. In my quiet time this week, I begin to ponder and begin to meditate. You know, somebody asked the question of what's the difference between prayer and meditation. And so I would say usually growing up in the church, prayer is when you put your petition out, is when you speak into existence the things that you want and put out what it is that you want to manifest. But meditation is when you are actually silenced and you're receiving the direction, you're receiving the messages of what needs to happen and what needs to be done. And so I've always said that meditation is nothing more than medication for the mind, because man is his mind. And so it's very important that we take the time to really meditate and really get in that position. And so in my meditation this week, I begin to say, listen to what Spirit was telling me. And so what I'm going to do is what Spirit has told me is that for the next months remaining, we're going to teach out of the Millionaire Bible series. I found that this is something that's been very dear to my heart. I love it. Anybody on here who's a metaphysician, New Thought study practitioner, or you definitely know what it is, what I'm talking about, because these series of books are just absolutely phenomenal. They changed my life. They're written by Catherine Ponder, and the first book that we're going to start with briefly, and I'm going to get into today, is we're going to look at the Millionaire Joshua. I have all of them, but for whatever reason, Spirit told me to start there. So we're going to start with Joshua. And I would like to say this. Getting into studying the Bible metaphysically has really changed my life profoundly, because what it has done is that it actually has broadened my horizon, but it also has shown me how to look at life differently, not just in the Bible, but when you learn how to use the keys and begin to see things through the scope metaphysically, it changes your view of everything. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put together a key of certain terms and words and give it to you guys what it means metaphysically. And if you guys have gotten the handouts for the call today, you will see that I have a few things on there. But I'm going to put together a whole just sheet full of just all of the different terms, words, what they mean metaphysically, all those things. And when you begin to use those things, as you begin to read the Bible, you're going to see the Bible begin to open up to you layers upon layers that you never would have imagined. One of the books, there's two books that I think everybody on this call should have in their library. The first book is called The Hidden Mysteries of the Bible by Jack Addington. That's Addington. They just recently, I guess a few years ago, they re-released it, and it's like in a paperback. I have the hardcover. The next book that everybody should have is the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary by Charles Fillmore. Those two books I would say you would definitely need. Those books are absolutely phenomenal. They are definitely must-haves in your library. And I think anything by Charles Fillmore is absolutely great. Anything by Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind. So I think that those are the two books that I would say that, were definitely very, very, very influential in my life. When I look at the Millionaire series, Catherine Ponder did a magnificent job of putting that together, because I think that we're in a time now where this needs to be done. I think that we need to take a look at this and really get in tune with moving and shifting our consciousness to the millionaire consciousness, moving our consciousness to be not what we should be, but what we were destined to be, what our destiny, what our purpose in life is. And I think that beginning to get into the Bible and study these Millionaire series, you begin to see yourself unfold. You begin to see yourself expand beyond what you could ever think. Because what happens is you start seeing yourself in these characters. You start seeing yourself in these people, and you begin to say, wait a minute, if Joshua can do this and he was able to do that, I can do the same thing. I can use the same techniques and the same success secrets that Joshua used and begin to move in. Now, metaphysically, they say that the word millionaire means advance or abundance in happiness. I like to look at it as one advancing themselves in abundance and in happiness. Wealth would be your farewell, right? Encompassing your well-being on all levels of life. How to encompass your well-being on all levels of life would be the definition of wealth metaphysically. So to be wealthy, which means that I have to encompass all well-being. I believe being wealthy is the ability to finance one's dreams. That would be my definition of wealth. Is the ability to finance one's own dreams. And so when we look at Joshua and this particular text today, Joshua goes from being a slave to a millionaire. We see here in the text, one of the texts that I used was coming out of Genesis 17:8, and it says, I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Now, I begin to look at that, and the reason why I chose that was because he says, I will give you the land of Canaan, right? The word Canaan means realm of substance. I will give you that land, that realm of substance, right? Well, substance is the key to all wealth. Substance, it is the key to all wealth. Substance actually means that which stands under all invisible forms of life. Some even say that substance, the definition of substance means, and is literally the body of God. So when God tells them, I'm going to give you the land, what he's saying is, I'm going to give you Canaan, the realm of substance. I'm going to give you that substance. What is substance? It is the key to all wealth. Being able to understand and to grasp that substance. Now, what I find here is that when you study the story of Joshua, you begin to see that, yes, he was a slave. He went from a slave, and then he went into the wilderness with the children of Israel. And while he was in the wilderness, he was a servant to Moses. Moses was his mentor. Moses began to teach him the secrets, the laws of prosperity. Moses began to teach him, hey, wait a minute. I know where you came from, but just because you came from this place doesn't mean that you have to stay there. Doesn't mean that you have to stay bound. By being in the wilderness, which represents limitation, being able to be limited, being in the limitation. But I'll say this, there is the only limitation man would ever experience is the limitation of his mind. So when they were in the wilderness, they were in a state of consciousness in the wilderness. They had a wilderness consciousness, meaning that it was not enough, there were no resources, there was no. That's the level of consciousness that they were in. During that time, Moses began to teach Joshua. He began to teach him. Joshua, the word Joshua means Jehovah help. It means victory, deliverance. It also means Jehovah makes rich. Joshua has also been defined as the divinity within man. some people say it's the same word in the Greek as Jesus, which means divinity within man. And so when we look at Joshua and we look at who he is, Joshua for Moses was a servant. Joshua became a spy. Joshua became a soldier. And then he became a savior to the Hebrews. Now, this story is so fascinating to me because this story, what it does is it actually shows us how one could be in slavery, where he's forced under duress. He's forced to do things that he doesn't want to do. He's in slavery. And out of slavery, by utilizing and being under the teaching of Moses, we're going to see how the shift took place. We're going to see how that shift took place and how he was allowed then to be able to go from being a slave to being a millionaire. Now Moses, the word Moses really literally means drawn out, to pull out of bondage, right? But Moses also, the definition of Moses metaphysically would mean the knowledge of the laws of prosperity, or one would say the laws of mind and action. So these laws of mind and action are the same laws of prosperity, the same laws of knowledge that was given to Joshua. They were in the wilderness for 40 years. Now we understand that the number 40 or the number 4 is a very significant number. The number 4 has to do with organizing, prioritizing. That's what they were doing in the wilderness as they were getting ready to enter into the promised land. They were getting ready to move in there, but they were going through the planning, the organizing, the prioritizing, trying to put everything together. 4 brings structure. The number 4 brings organization and structure. Now, what happens here is that God tells them, I'm going to give you the land. The word land, the word land metaphysically literally means it literally means out picturing. It means the emerging out of fluidic substance of mind. The word land, to outpicture, to unfold on many different levels of consciousness, because there's many different kinds of lands. The promised land, and so what happens is if anybody has ever been in the wilderness consciousness, you understand and you know, if you're in the wilderness consciousness of mind, you understand that there's nothing outside of you. It doesn't seem like there's any resources. It doesn't seem like anybody's there. It seems like you're by yourself. And it seems like you're just almost, I'm going to say, left for dead. It seems like there's no life form. Doesn't seem like there's anything to live for, because you're in the wilderness. There's absolutely nothing. It's totally naked and empty. Doesn't seem like there's any help. Doesn't seem like there's anything. But once again, the only limitations that man will ever face is the limitations of his mind. Because whenever you see the word man substituted with mind, as a man, the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, I would say as a mind thinketh. Because every time you see the word man, you automatically think about his mind. You substitute it with the word mind. That's why I tell people all the time, when you get in a relationship with somebody or you start dating somebody, you're not dating that person, you're dating their mind. As a mind thinketh, you're dating a mind. It's something about the power of the mind. As the definition of Moses, which I love, is the law of mind in action. Moses began to teach Joshua the prosperity secrets. It was even disclosed that during his tenure in the wilderness, that Moses started a mystery school. And when he started the mystery school, Joshua was one of his students in the school, and he was teaching him the mysteries, teaching him the mysteries. And so this profound lesson, this profound knowledge that Moses was giving him, showing him how to operate and how to move in the wilderness, that regardless of your wilderness experience, what's coming It's better than what's been. Now, this is the thing that really fascinated me about this. I believe it's Exodus 17 is when Moses comes to Joshua and he says, listen, we're going to the promised land. But before we get there, I want you to go spy out the land. Now, I found this very interesting because at this time, they're in the wilderness. They're in a place where there's no resources, where they're by themselves. There's really nothing there. Some may feel hopeless and full of void, and just all kind of stuff is going on. Moses tells Joshua to go spy out the land. What that literally means is, before I can enter my promised land, I got to go first see the land. I got to go first picture and see what it is that I'm coming into. Before one can actually move into the promised land, you've got to first see what it is that you're going to be coming into. A spy. What is a spy? A spy is somebody who conveys classified information, classified strategic information, and begins to bring it back when he sees. He goes and cultivates the land. He goes and spies on what it is. How many of us, when we get ready to move from that consciousness of wilderness, from being a slave to a millionaire, can actually use the principle of going in and spying, visually seeing yourself being, doing, and having that what it is that you want? Before you can do anything, you got to see yourself doing it first. Before you get to the promised land, you got to first see the promised land. You got to be able to go and spy and begin to see that which you're getting ready to move into. You got to be able to move into a place where I'm able to see that which I'm getting ready to move into. What is it that I'm moving into? I'm moving into the promised land. Some call the promised land the land of milk and honey. And so we get into this place where we're getting ready to spy out the land. And when we spy out the land, we're looking at what are we coming into. We're looking at where is my good? Where is the abundance? Where is the prosperity? Now, what's interesting here is that Moses chooses Joshua. He chooses Joshua. He sees something in him. He sees who Joshua is. Sometimes it's amazing how sometimes we can see stuff in people that they can't see themselves. It's amazing. I don't know how many people on this call. Have you ever seen somebody that's really talented, somebody who's really gifted, and you always compliment them and tell them about their gift and tell them how gifted and talented they are? And regardless of how much people tell them how gifted and talented they are, it seems like they do everything other than what they're supposed to be doing or what they're gifted and talented in. And it almost means like they just don't see it. But if we could really get an understanding of the gifts and talents that we had within us, that Moses would choose Joshua and say, go spy out the land. Why would he choose Joshua? Because Moses knew that he wasn't going to be the one to take them into the promised land. He was the one that was going to be able to take them out of bondage. He was going to be the one to take them out of slavery. He was the one that was going to be able to take them out, but he wasn't going to be able to want to bring them into the promised land. And so he calls Joshua and says, Joshua, listen, go spy out the land. Why? Because you're the one that's going to bring them in there. You have to be able to see it. If you don't see it, it won't happen. If you believe, if you only get what you see, you have to be the one to see it. You can't send somebody else to go see your promised land. You have to be able to see your own promised land because you're the one that's going to be able to go and possess the land. I find that these secret success teachings are very profound and prolific because we begin to see Joshua in a great way as he begins to go and begin to manifest and begin to learn how this mission is going to unfold. To begin to spy, to look at the land. He was the one that saw it. So when he came back, it was his report. when you see something, it's very hard for you to unsee it. So what that means is that when he went to go spy on the promised land and he came back, he saw things that nobody else had seen. And because he had seen the vision, because he had seen it, he now can say, listen, I've already been there. I've seen where we're going. I know what to expect. I know what we're walking into because I saw it. Those of you on this call, as you get ready to move into your promised land, even this week, some of you are going to be making great shifts, as we talked about the new moon and the solar eclipse, as you get ready to make these major changes in your life, and you begin to, what are you going to do as you begin to see your promised land? Begin to write down the things that you see. Begin to start visualizing and seeing the things that you're walking into, because you have to be able to see it before you can possess it. I find that the book, the Millionaire series, really takes us to a place when we start understanding how when Joshua was going to the promised land, he's really going to the land of Canaan, which is that realm of substance, right? Substance is that which stands under all visible forms of life. It is the thing that makes us, it keeps us, it actually is what allows us to be who we are. Even though we're nothing but spiritual beings having a human experience, it is something about that substance. They metaphysically, they say substance is the key to all wealth. Where's the substance at? That's what I want. I want to get to the substance, because that's where it's at. It's not in anything else but in the substance. One of the affirmations that we have on our call sheet literally says, divine substance is producing perfect results. Let me tell you, when you go in this week and begin to operate with this principle, I want you to start really meditating on substance, of really getting to a new level, a new level of substance, the realm of substance, to begin to connect with substance, because it is the divine substance that will begin to produce the perfect ways for us. It is that divine substance that will allow us to move from where we are and move into our level of consciousness, our millionaire's consciousness. It will allow us to really get into that place. And I'm excited about being able to move into that place. It's something about the promised land, the out picturing, being able to emerge out of what is called the fluidic substance of mind. Now, they say that the land comes out of the water, that earth comes out of the water. And so when we talk about one that has moved to the promised land, it's the emerging out of the fluidic substance of mind, that I'm pulling myself out of the fluidic substance, out of the water, and I'm making myself firm concrete. I'm being able to have that substance to stand on. And so when we make that shift into the promised land, you'll see a lot of things changing. Now, when they were in the wilderness, I could imagine the frustration they were going through, because at the time, when you're in a wilderness mentality, sometimes you don't see the end result. You can't see the end of the tunnel. But that's why it's important that you begin to spy, that you begin to go and begin to look up and begin to look into the heavens and begin to see your promised land, begin to see what it is that you're getting ready to walk into. Because before you can walk into it and possess it, you got to see it. You got to know how to strategically convey the information. That's what a spy does. A spy doesn't go walk in and just start looking at things, but a spy strategically goes and gets information. Anybody who's ever seen a movie about a spy, or we talk about like 007 and all these movies where they got different spies, and the Mission Impossible movies when they had spies, these were people who strategically knew how to get into places and get the information that needed to be got and come right back out without getting noticed. But that's the thing that I love here, because in the wilderness, once again, the 40 years, we're dealing with that number 4 again. The number 4 has to do with organizing, prioritizing, and putting things in perspective. Guess what? Being in the wilderness wasn't easy. Just like anybody who's in the wilderness experience, organizing, planning, and putting structure is never easy in one's life. Anybody on this call that's listening to the sound of my voice, you know that anybody who is in their life right now and you're at a place now where you're trying to organize, prioritize, put things in perspective, bring discipline in your life, it is extremely difficult. Why? We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We don't always want the structure. We don't always want the discipline. We don't always want the organization. But we have to realize that in order to move into our promised land, those are some of the things that we're going to need. In order for me to move from my slave consciousness, as Joshua did, from being a slave to a millionaire, I got to go through those things. I got to go through the wilderness. Why? Because the wilderness experience is going to show me how to use those things. It's going to show me how to operate in organization, how to operate in discipline and structure. What did Moses tell them to do? Go ahead and gather some men, gather some soldiers, and go spy out the land. How to organize people and how to bring things in perspective. Why? Because where I'm going, I need this skill set. I need to know how to do these things. These are the things, because let me tell you this. Getting to the promised land is not the thing that we should be happy about. It's about getting to the promised land and being able to stay in the promised land, not allowing my consciousness to shift back into the wilderness. I'll say that again. Getting to the promised land is not really the be-all, do-all, because we're going to get to the promised land, but getting to the promised land and being able to maintain it and stay there, that's what it's all about. Because how quickly can one shift back into old habits, shift back into old patterns, shift back into old ways of how we used to do things? But no, I don't want to do that. I want to be like Joshua. I want to be able to go out and spy the land. I want to see the house. I want to see the car. I want to see my bank account with all those zeros. I want to see my businesses excel. I need to see those things. I need to send the spy out and begin to see those things, because guess what? That's what I'm getting ready to walk into. But now, what I'm doing also is I'm organizing and prioritizing and bringing that discipline in, because I know that when I get to my promised land, these are the things that's going to help me stay there. These are the things that are going to help me to maintain it. And so I believe that we're in this level of consciousness, and it's very ironic how I'm talking about this, because I just believe that for some of y'all, this week is going to be a very phenomenal week. Now listen, Mercury is retrograde, and oh man, have I been experiencing the Mercury retrograde. I don't know anybody else on this call has, but this week has been, unbelievable. From computer issues, internet issues, systems going down, just everything dealing with communication. But in spite of that, I'm still excited about being able to really put some things together and manifest and really move forward. As I said before, this Thursday, June 10th, will be the new moon and the solar eclipse. It is a time where we should really put together what it is that we want to manifest, what it is that we want to go out into. This is a perfect time on Thursday to send your spies out to begin to spy out the promised land of what you're getting ready to walk into. We're already at the halfway mark. We're at June, and we're at the halfway mark of the year. And so on Thursday, one of the things that I'm saying to people is, where am I now and where do I want to be? And there are a lot of things that I want to manifest. I've mentioned to you guys on the call, one of my things is to expand this call to get more people to get the word out. And so we're going to be focusing on that. But at the same time, do you know that as you begin to expand your level of consciousness, you see your life begin to expand. You begin to see things opening up. I begin to I have a lot of people from the New Thought, Unity, the Science of Mind community who have been reaching out, who have really been really seeing our posts, really seeing our talks and our calls go out, and really getting a lot of good feedback. So I think that this is something that's definitely vital for this day and time. I believe that if we can really get into a place where we can start organizing, prioritizing on what we saw. Now, Joshua had a heavy burden to carry because he was the one now that was going to be the one to take them into the promised land, because he saw it. Moses didn't never see it. He had to come back and give the report, and he had to report to him what was seen and convey strategically the information that he had gathered. But it's nothing like the person who saw it, because the person who actually sees the promised land, who actually is the one who's the spy, is something about getting it firsthand that's very special. When you begin to go into the theater of your mind and visualize yourself being, doing, and having the very thing that you want, it's very different than you telling it to somebody else. Well, you know what? I was in meditation last night, and I saw myself, and they're hearing it secondhand. But it's something different when you were actually in the theater of your own mind and you saw yourself being, doing, and having that which you want to walk into. Before you can walk into any promised land in your life, you must first see it. This is what I would call understanding how to capture the realm of substance, how to begin to understand that we need to now move into that level of mind where we are now gathering and connecting with divine substance. And so we see here that the significance here is very crucial. It says, I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee. But not just give unto thee, but he's going to give to our children's children the land of thy sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession. That means that, listen, once you possess that land, you will forever have it. It can never be taken away from you. That's why I always tell people this. Whatever you get in consciousness can never be taken away from you. And sometimes this is what happens. If you don't have it in consciousness, you won't have it in the real world. And what happens is some people get things in the physical world and they don't have it in consciousness and they lose it. You see people sometimes that they have things that people say, oh, they got a nice car, they got a nice house, they got all these different things, and then all of a sudden they lose it, and you say, well, hey, wow, I don't understand. Like, they had all those things, and at the level of the things that they had, you thought that they were at a high level of consciousness, but they didn't have it in consciousness. They only had it on the physical realm, and you can't do that. You can't be too earthly minded that you're no heavenly good, and you can't be no heavenly good that you're no earthly minded, because it says, as it is in heaven, so shall it be in earth. You got to be in heaven first, and heaven is in your mind. Before it can be on earth, they must first be in heaven. As it is in heaven, so shall it be on earth. I have to first begin to see it and begin to creatively create it in heaven, and then it will be made manifest in my physical reality. But we live in a society now where people just want to create it on earth and have it on earth, but don't have it in heaven. It don't last. That which is created in the Bible says that which is intangible. The Bible says that which is intangible is eternal in the heavens. That which is not seen is eternal in the heavens. So that means that whatever I create in my heaven, in my mind, is eternal in the heavens. It lasts forever. But that which is physical, to everything there is a beginning, and to everything there is an end. And so I begin to look at that from that perspective, because I begin to understand and say, wait a minute, look at this. I'm in a place now where I really want to manifest some things. And I could imagine Joshua going to the place where Moses told him to go spy on the land and say, listen, now I wonder if Joshua actually knew. I don't think Joshua knew that when Moses told him to go spy, that Joshua thought that, or even knew that he would be the one to take the children of Israel into the promised land. He was a servant of Moses. Here he is being part of his initiates and his mystery school, being under his teaching while being in the wilderness. And Moses began to teach him how to operate in the law of mind in action. He began to teach him how to move and how to elevate and how to use the principles, how to organize, how to prioritize, how to bring structure. And so he says to him, go and spy out the land and bring me back the report. And so when he brings him back the report, what happens is, I don't think Joshua knew it then that he would be the one to be tapped on the shoulder as the savior of the Hebrews, taking them into the promised land. those of you who are listening to my voice, I want you to know that as you move this week and move from your place of where you are now and move into your promised land, that you begin to connect with the divine substance and you begin to move from where you are, your level of consciousness now, and you begin to go and spy out the land of where you're going. Spy out and begin to bring back that report. Because now, this is what happens now. Listen to this. When you go and see your promised land and you see what all it entails, guess what happens now? Now you got to organize and prioritize because you know what you're walking into. Joshua knew what the troops looked like. He knew how big the population was. He knew the amount of the soldiers and the army that they had. He was able to survey the land. The same thing with your manifestation. When you get ready to go into your promised land, you now know and you can see what you're walking into. So now you know how to organize and plan. You know what? I'm getting ready to get this house. I'm getting ready to get a new car. I'm getting ready to start this new business. These are some of the things that I need to do to organize and plan. These are some of the things that I need to do to really put myself in a position. Why? Because I know that I'm moving into my promised land. I'm getting ready to connect with the divine substance that's going to start producing and being put into perspective my destiny. And so what happens here is that I begin now to understand how important it is to prioritize what's important, what's not important. To now understand that, listen, wait a minute, this is going to be very difficult. Not so much difficult, but it's going to be time consuming. It's going to take 100% of your energy, your effort, and your time. This is not something that just happens by the way or just happens when we feel like it, when we understand that I am a millionaire. We talked about the I am, which was one of our first calls, and we talked about what it means when you add to I am, you become the very thing. So when you use the word I am a millionaire, metaphysically, millionaire means abundance and happiness. I am abundance and I am happiness. I am fulfillment. I am fulfillment. That word happiness is very important because I know a lot of people who have a lot of money, who are very wealthy, who are very successful, but they're not happy. I want to be happy and I want to be abundant. Happiness. I want to be able to dwell on the divine substance of happiness. I want to be able to live and begin to expound on the consciousness of abundance. Because I understand that I'm a millionaire. Not a millionaire so much as in dollars and cents, but a millionaire consciousness. Why? I don't chase money. Money chases me. Again, I want to have a millionaire's consciousness where I don't chase money, money chases me. Guess what? We're moving. We're moving in consciousness. We're moving from working. We're moving from changing from. This is what we're going to do now. We're going to change our whole spectrum. We're going to change how we operate. No longer will we trade time for money. From now on, we're going to learn how to trade wisdom for money. Because guess what? Anybody who was in the wilderness for 40 years that was in the special mystery school of Moses, and he was beginning to teach them how to operate in the laws of mind and action, and he began to give them the secrets of success and begin to teach them that you can now, coming out of being a slave, I'm going to show you how to move out of being a slave. And in the wilderness, I'm going to show you how these things will manifest. Now, there is a point in time where we're going to get into Moses. I'm going to get the book on Moses and begin to teach out of that, and we begin to operate and begin to show you how he was able to move them out of slavery and how one begins to get moved out of slavery through consciousness, to get out of that slave mentality. The mentality of a slave, and begin to move out of that level of consciousness and begin to step into your consciousness of being a millionaire. So this week, This is no other perfect week than this week coming up on Thursday, when we will begin to have our new moon and our solar eclipse, that it will be a perfect opportunity for us to begin to step into our promised land, to begin to possess the promised land, and begin to move, to be, and to do all that we wish and all that we desire. And so I'm excited about it, because I feel that this is the opportunity that we all should be happy to embrace. I do not depend upon persons or conditions for my prosperity. God is the source of my supply, and God provides his own amazing channels of supply in me now, right now. Listen, this is what I love about being able to possess the promised land. We don't have to wait 2 years. We ain't got to wait till next week. We ain't got to wait till 2 days from now. We ain't got to wait till 2 years from now or 5 years from now. But right now, we can tap into the divine substance. At this given moment, we can open our hearts and our minds to receive all the good that the universe has for us. My prosperity now comes to me from expected channels and expected ways. My prosperity also comes to me from unexpected channels and unexpected ways. From all points of the universe, rich supply comes to me now from expected and unexpected ways. Moving into a millionaire consciousness, to operate in a millionaire consciousness, that where your good comes unexpected and expected. You begin to move and operate differently now, because your mindset has changed. You're no longer thinking the way that you used to think. You're no longer operating the way that you used to operate. You're moving. You what you intake different. What you eat, take in psychologically, take in spiritually. What you take in has been changed. There's a change in your appetite. The things that you used to have a desire for, you don't have a desire for anymore. Things begin to change now. I used to, eat certain things. I used to watch certain things. Those things don't really do anything for me anymore. I don't watch the same things I used to watch. I don't entertain the same people that I used to entertain. Something happened. There's been a shift in my consciousness. The things that used to be important to me are no longer important, and people are starting to see that shift, because a lot of things that I used to think were so important to me don't even exist to me anymore. And people now are learning. They can sense it from me. They can sense that there's been a change. But guess what? You didn't make any changes on the outside. The change happened within, because you were able now to move and shift into your promised land. Joshua had to come back and get the troops ready. He had to say, listen, I went over there. I saw the promised land. I saw the land of milk and honey, and oh, my God, it was amazing. Guess what? This is what we need to do. I need this. I need this. We need to get this in order. We need to have this ready. We need to be able to do this. We need to be able to do that. Why? Because I already saw where we're going. I know where we're getting ready to go. I've seen it. And so it's very important that we get to that place where we are able to tap into the divine substance, tap into that substance which we all need, which we all have, and can always connect to the divine substance, and begin to understand how important it is. Because listen, the better that you understand the nature of substance out of which comes all wealth, the better you'll be able to understand how to bring forth whatever you desire. And when you begin to understand the nature of substance out of which comes all wealth, when you begin to understand that substance brings everything with it, the better you will begin to bring forth whatever you desire. Because when you connect to the divine substance, it is that divine substance that's going to give you what you need to get to the place where you need. When Joshua went to the promised land, as we already defined, the land was the immersion of the fluidic substance out of mind. What happens is he was actually connected with divine substance. Divine substance was showing him, Joshua, this is what it is. This is the promised land. This is where you guys are going. You came out of bondage. You came out of slavery, and then you went in the wilderness. And then now look at this. They came out of slavery, and they went into the wilderness. Now, you got to realize this too. Listen, everything in life is a shift of consciousness. And too much light will blind you. Have you ever seen anybody who's in darkness for a long time? Have you ever been asleep and you've been asleep at night or in the middle of the night while you sleep? Somebody just turns on the light and you just put the covers over your head and be like, oh, come on, man, turn the light off. You know, too much light. Too much light blinds you because you've been in the darkness so long. When Moses took them out of slavery, out of bondage into the wilderness, they had to go into the wilderness because he couldn't take them straight from slavery into the promised land. That would have been too much light. It would have been too much. They would have blinded them. They wouldn't have been prepared for that because their consciousness wasn't ready. So he had to take them out of the level of consciousness and say, listen, you're no longer a slave no more. So, you know, for instance, let me give you this. I have a dog, and I walk my dog on a leash. And every day when I put the leash on the dog, we walk outside, we walk on the leash, we walk on the leash, we walk on the leash. And one day I said, well, you know what? I'm going to walk him without a leash. And what happened was I unhooked the leash off the dog and began to walk, but the dog didn't move because he was so used to being on a leash that he didn't understand that without the leash, he was free. He could move. But he was so, his mindset, his consciousness was so connected to being connected to the leash that when I unhooked the leash from him and began to walk, he didn't move. And I had to say, come on, let's go. You can walk. And I had to now shift his consciousness into beginning to walk without the leash because he was so used to being connected to the leash. The same thing in slavery. When you're so much connected to being told what to do and be forced and be in slavery, and now you get pulled out of slavery, it needed to go through a time where your consciousness needed to be reset. So they had to go through the wilderness because Moses had to shift their consciousness. You're no longer a slave anymore. You're no longer in bondage anymore. And we are going somewhere. We didn't come out of slavery just to stay here in the wilderness. We're getting ourselves together because we're getting ready to move into the promised land. The same thing where you are. I don't know where you are today. I don't know which level of consciousness you dwell in. But whatever level of consciousness that you dwell into, you got to understand that as you get ready to move from this level of consciousness into the promised land, there's going to be a time where you're going to have to move out of slavery, out of bondage, and move into the wilderness only to learn how to operate, how to function, how to structure, how to prioritize, how to organize, how to bring discipline. And then you can move into your promised land. And so I'm excited about this word. I'm excited about this for the remaining months. We're going to be teaching on the Millionaires of the Bible series. How many didn't know that there were millionaires in the Bible? How many didn't know that the success and prosperity secrets are in the Bible? The Bible is a prosperity textbook. And we're going to get into this every Sunday. On Sundays, every Sunday going forward, for the next remaining months, we're going to be teaching out of the Millionaire Bible series. So get the word out. Let people know, like, listen, if you want to learn about the millionaires of the Bible, tell them to tune in every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What I want to do now is I want to give you guys the opportunity to join into our circulation. And what I call the circulation is when we sow a seed, we don't spend money, we circulate money as money is being released. Now, I'll tell you this, I had such of a blessing this week because we are in the first of the month, and we know the first of the month is when our bills are due. And every time I release funds to pay bills this week, I kept saying, only thing I'm doing is circulating these funds back to me 100-fold. I'm releasing these funds, and they're coming back to me 100-fold. So I'm excited about joining in on our circulation. Whatever you release, you're no longer spending money because in the word spend is the word end. So we're not spending money, we are circulating money. Every time you release finances out of your hand, I want you to speak it into existence that it will return to you 100-fold. And we understand and we know that who you sustain will determine how you get maintained. I'll say it again. Who you sustain will determine how you get maintained. And I think that, you know, I was thinking this week of meditation, and one of the things that came to me is that as we're moving from the slave mentality to the millionaire, when we're moving out of bondage and moving out of the wilderness into our promised land, it's really amazing what happened to us with the pandemic, because I kind of feel like we went from brick and mortar to click and order. We went to brick and mortar. We went from brick and mortar to click and order. And if you're moving from brick and mortar, that's a level of consciousness. And to shift to click and order now, everything is online. You know how many people had to really shift their consciousness? They had to move out of bondage, out of the wilderness, which was the brick and mortar, and move into the click and order. And so I think that as we get ready to move into this new paradigm and this new shift, I'm excited about what's coming. I want to do a millionaire seed today. The millionaire seed that we want to work with is $37. The $37, the 3 is the number of expansion. It is the number of being able to move out into the out picturing of our minds, but it's also the number of being able to expand. Once the mind expands, it could never go back to its original form. And the number 7 is the number of pulling back. It is the number of redeveloping, redefining. And what we're doing, we are redeveloping, we are redefining our minds, and we're really getting into this Metaphysical Bible series so that we can really learn the prosperity secrets of the Bible. And what are we doing also? When you add 3 and 7, you get the number 1, because 3 and 7 is 10. But the number 1 is the number of new beginnings. It is the number of foundation. The number 1 is the number of divine substance. And so we're going to work with the $37 seed today. Those of you that want to sow, we have our Cash App available now. It's going to be $TOESC, which stands for Temple of Enlightenment Spiritual Center. So it's going to be TOESC, TOESC as in center. So if you guys want to sow your $37 seed, you can do that. We're also on PayPal at Issachar Bey at gmail.com. That's going to be ISSACHARBEY. We're also on Vimo, which is going to be at Issachar, ISSACHAR-Bey, BEY. And then we're also on Zelle, which is going to be IssacharBey at gmail.com. So I want to thank all of you. A lot of you have been asking about the Cash App. We went and set up the account for the Temple of Enlightenment. Like I said before, I want to thank you guys for being a part of this, and I also want to thank you for helping us get the word out. I'm going to be working diligently, because my manifestation goal this week is to put myself together to really get out there and start working with being able to manifest 100 people on this call. And so I'm working on some things and really getting myself in a position to work and to open up and to really move in there. Guess what? I've been to the promised land already. I already see 100 people on this call. I already see it. But guess what? Now that I went and spied out the land, now I got to come back and organize and put it together and begin to allow it to unfold. And so I'm excited about what's getting ready to happen for us. So once again, those of you that want to work today, we're working with the $37 millionaire seed. And that's the seed that we'll be working with in these months. The $37, I call it the millionaire seed. Why? Because the millionaire is the seed of abundance, and it is the seed of happiness. And so we're going to be working with that as we begin to move into this week of our new moon and also our solar eclipse. This is a great time to manifest. So I want all of you to be on one accord, to be in the midst of this, for this great shift that's going to happen. Also want to remind you guys on Wednesday night that we will be doing our Wednesday night meeting. On Wednesdays nights, I'll be doing the Lessons in Wisdom call. The Lesson in Wisdom call will be some other things that I have going on that I'm going to be teaching on. But every Sunday going forth, we're going to be doing the Millionaires Bible series. So definitely get the word out and let everybody know. Just before we end this call, I want to thank you all for being a part of this call. Thank you so much. You're greatly appreciated with your time, your effort, and your energy. And I'd like to say this one thing. Your destiny is not a matter of chance, but it's a matter of choice. And I hope to see you in the promised land.